this episode, Sim Bin Race Series, Virtual RC, Sim Racing Tutorials, and Top Sim Cars. This show is sponsored by Sim Raceway. Welcome to Inside Sim Racing. I'm your host, Jessica Lopez, and this is none other than the Darren Ganji.
The Darren Ganji.
Sitting here with me, thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure.
We're going to start right off by helping all you aspiring sim racers by showing you some great tutorial sims to start off with.
Yes, we get a lot of inquiries from a lot of people that are coming over from consoles that are looking, first of all, for what PC sim to try out. But then also I thought, you know what, why don't I point them to the ones that have some great tutorials. Richard Burns Rally, or schools you could call them. It's a rally school for that one. Richard Burns Rally, Live for Speed, and GTR2.
That's right. And speaking of those titles for the PC, we actually have a new member to our crew here at Inside Sim Racing. He does a lot of behind the camera work, and his name is Warren Desper. And he's an avid gamer, and he is in the process of being converted into a sim racer by Darren and Sean.
And I think we're definitely doing it, man. He's loving it. First came over just doing Dirt 2, but now we're actually starting to get him into the Sims. Actually, we started with this little Forza 3 competition that we had going, and he realized that this is serious, and so put him in the tutorials and did a little piece on it, and thought it was a great. He's going to be like our sim racer in training now.
Yeah, exactly. So Darren spent some time with him, like he said, and put him through those sims that you heard earlier: GTR2, Richard Burns Rally, and Live for Speed. And
we also have a piece from Sean. Sean put a piece together from one of our earlier episodes on iRacing, the iRacing review, and we were a little long on that show, but this is like a tutorial on taking care of your safety rating and how to get going on iRacing too.
How to get going on iRacing and how to get going on these other great sims. This is our tutorial piece.
A lot of new sim racers ask us where to start their PC sim racing careers. Depending on the type of racing you want to do, there's a good simulated school for you. Street cars, front and rear wheel drive, GT race cars, open wheel, rallycross, and full rally are covered in the 3 titles we'll discuss: GTR2, Live for Speed, and Richard Burns Rally. Starting with Richard Burns Rally and the Forest Experience Rally School. This is a simulated version of the same one Richard Burns himself did at the age of 15. Not only should you set your goal of finishing each stage, matter of fact, take that mentality into all of the lessons in any of the sims you drive. All of the schools start with the basics and work their ways up to difficult techniques. Acceleration and braking in a straight line are at the top of most of them, then it goes to cornering, up to more advanced maneuvers. There's 17 included with Richard Burns Rally, 3 of which are either ride-alongs or free drives. You start in the 2004 Subaru Impreza with Richard Burns as your coach.
Remember that you have 300 brake horsepower at your command, and 4-wheel drive, so go easy on the throttle.
Lesson 1 is a free drive in an open lot with gravel where you are free to learn the car. This starts one of 6 basic courses before you get to the advanced rally techniques. The 5th basic class has you qualifying on the rally school course in order to graduate to the advanced classes. The 6th class is a ride-along with Richard Burns himself.
This next lesson is my favourite. You've shown that you can handle a rally car at some pretty decent speeds. That's good, but there's still a lot to learn. Relax and enjoy the ride as I drive you through the rally school stage my way.
First up in advance, the handbrake turn, or e-brake as I call it. This is how you learn to make a quick U-turn by applying the emergency or rear brakes of the car. From there you learn how to oversteer with left foot braking and throttle control, then do a power slide lesson. After that, you change to a tarmac surface for the first time, and it's another free drive to see how the car feels on the new surface. You then complete a few standard classes on the tarmac, and then advance to the famous Scandinavian flick, my favorite maneuver in rally racing.
In this exercise, you must first turn the car in the opposite direction to the corner, and then back into the corner itself, thus using a pendulum effect to help turn the car. Accelerate to about 80. When reaching the cones, initiate the flick.
Finally, you run the rally school stage without all the cones and signs with Robert Reed as your co-pilot. And this is how you graduate from the Richard Burns Rally School. Live for Speed has a great physics engine to learn a lot of road racing techniques. All of the tracks are fantasy, and most of the cars are as well. Where Richard Burns was all about car control, Live for Speed teaches overtaking, pit stops, and much more. You can actually get the Live for Speed demo for free and complete the 18 courses. To complete all the courses, you need first an S1 license to get up to course 26, then an S2 to finish the full 38. After the basics, they go into full laps around the tracks. First in test drive mode, and then trying to overtake AI. You start your Live for Speed school in a front-wheel drive, low-horsepower car to learn the basics, then advance to rear-wheel drive, rallycross, and finally the Formula BMW to round out the demo training. As you advance through the final 20 courses, so do your cars. Finally, what I think is the most complete sim driving school, GTR2. When I honestly first glanced at it, it looked like there were 5 basic courses: acceleration, braking, cornering parts 1 and 2, and overtaking, and then 15 extras on learning the tracks in GTR2. In taking a much closer look, I found a whopping 142 challenges or classes to pass, all of which can be a useful tool as you begin your sim racing career. Some come with the driving line on, and then you advance to having it off and learning the braking points and turn-in points on your own. You start your GTR2 driving school in a Lotus Elise at Donington Park, and then you get to train at 15 of the most incredible tracks in the world. You have an instructor who will be represented as a ghost car or actual AI car, and he's tough. Who the heck said AI can't be used as a useful training tool for the budding sim racer? Speaking of, as we mentioned, our new sim racer in training, Warren Desper, has finished the Richard Burns Rally School and is now working on GTR2 and Live for Speed. I've already noticed an improvement in his car control and general racing awareness and knowledge. In closing, in the real world, nobody can just jump on a racetrack in a race car and compete against other people without training or obtaining a license. If you know somebody that wants to start sim racing, send them to the sim racing schools that these titles provide. They're very inexpensive and can be useful tools as you advance down your sim racing career path. Richard Burns Rally can be obtained at our store at InsideSimRacing.tv or just do an eBay search for usually under $20. Live for Speed is available at LFS.net. The demo and 18 courses are free. The S1 license is just under $20 US and the S3 license is just under $40. GTR2 is getting a little tougher to find now. Try eBay or our store or just do a Google search. And best of luck as you advance down your sim racing career path.
So now that Darren has taken you through the race schooling process and you think you're ready to jump into the ranks of pro sim racing, I want to talk to you about your iRacing career and your safety rating, to be more specific. All of this is covered in the iRacing rules, so read the rules! In iRacing, you start off as a rookie in both road and oval. Your safety rating is what affects your licensing, and you start off with 2.5 points. When running points-paying sessions such as time trials, qualification, or racing, you will earn or lose safety rating. The rating is measured by your ability to run without going off track, spinning out of control, or having contact with other objects or cars. Finish a race without any of these incidents and you will earn safety rating points. Have an off-track moment or a crash with another car and watch those points drop. At the end of any season, as long as you have raced or time trialed in 4 events within your rank, you will be awarded the next license higher as long as your safety rating is above 3.0. There is also the fast track license system, where if you have met your 4 race requirements and have a safety rating above 4, you will immediately be awarded the next license higher. Fast track also works in the other direction. Drop below a 1.0 safety rating at any time and be demoted the next lower license. Whether it be on the road or oval career, as you climb the licensing ladder, you will be opened up to faster cars, more tracks, and higher levels of competition. So practice plenty, have a good racing game plan, and protect that safety rating.
Hope all you future sim racers enjoyed that tutorial piece on which titles to start off with, and I hope they work for you guys out there.
Yeah, they all make for great tutorials. We got a thread going in our forum if you want to come and talk to us about it and find out, a little bit more about them, or tell us, one that's out there.
Tell us your experience.
Yeah.
If it worked for you, how you liked it, did you enjoy it? If there's any out there that maybe we might have missed, we'd like to hear from you.
Definitely.
Now we're going to move forward to our top simulation cars of all time. And today we have a car from Simbin. It's actually from Race On, which is by Simbin.
One of the
And
race
it's-
series titles.
Yep, and it's the Formula Master. And speaking of Simbin, we're actually putting them and all of their titles on our weighted rating scale later on today's show.
Yep, definitely. And then we also have the VHR mod for R Factor, which is our first stock car mod for R Factor that we're putting on the show. And you know what VH stands for?
VH.
Van Halen. Believe it or not.
I thought
This
it was
guy's like-
going to be like vehicles.
Something racing related? No, when I first heard it, I'm like, VH. I'm actually a Van Halen fan, so these
pretty
guys,
cool.
yeah, these guys are big fans of Van Halen. Asked if they could use their name for their mod, and that's what they've done.
All right, so here you go. Top simulation cars of all time, sponsored by SimRaceway.com.
Home of the one-click install. All right, number 13.
Lucky number 13.
Lucky number, not my lucky number, but top sim cars of all time. And we got the VHR truck, which is basically a VHR stands for VH Racing. Mentioned that a little bit coming in, but compilation of stuff, trucks, cars. We're going to use the truck.
Yeah.
Also, I think there was help developing the Omega guys. We talked about those guys a while back on the show.
Yep.
I saw mention of them in the credits there. But and then we have the Formula Master. So let's just roll right with the VHR truck.
VHR. Timer
Get
going.
the timer going. And I'm just going to start by saying I really think that the guys at VHR, Corvette Dave is the main guy. I applaud him for everything they're trying to do, but I think they put too much. They're trying to do too many things.
Yeah,
all
this
the
is-
tracks.
It's more complete than some games you can purchase.
It is, and I think if they would have just maybe focused on one mod like this truck, they could have polished it. I think
agree.
this truck lacks a lot of polish.
And when playing with the truck, I found that a lot of things were very, very nice about it, and a lot of things left a lot to be desired about it as well.
Yep. And I wanted to mention some guys that I did some racing with on R Factor. Believe it or not, joined a server with no mismatches.
That was very cool.
Can't think of their name, but went and did some racing with those guys. Actually, I might have the replay. We'll show one of their tags here. But physics were kind of weird for me.
Yeah.
The default sets across the board were not good. You could only drive the VHR tracks. We tried putting Eastern Creek, our test track, in there. And
It didn't work.
didn't work. I couldn't get it to load.
Yeah. And like you were saying about the physics, we scored at a 13 out of 20 in physics. I felt disconnected.
I did
This
too.
is a little bit physics, a little bit of force feedback, but I felt disconnected from the wheel, and there just wasn't a lot of. I mean, yes, I could get used to everything and drive it, but ultimately the car wasn't transmitting the sensation.
Disconnected is the best word you could use.
Oh wow, that was a quick minute and a half.
Anything else? Models are nice. On the positive side, a lot of paint jobs. We gave it a 5 in the paints.
Yeah.
Sounds were pretty good, but overall,
Overall, it only got a 72 and a half.
it went right to the bottom of our list.
Ouch. So that's going to actually put it 26th on the list.
And I say giving it a grade of a C. That's where it deserved to be.
And if we could have given them more credit for how much they included, again, this is more than some Sims come with. But
Yeah, I love the chicken foot, which is like half of the new Van Halen, the newer Van Halen, and Michael Anthony and Sammy Hagar.
we spent a good hour trying to figure out what Van Halen song that was.
Yeah, and cool that they have the tie-in with Van Halen, but definitely missing the boat. Cool for a free download, though.
It is, and it's gorgeous. Little work on those physics and force feedback, and I'd love to drive that truck again.
I would, too. And some track work.
Yeah.
I'd love to see some better tracks.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Formula Master.
Yeah.
In honor of our Simbin review today. So, I didn't realize that this was actually a series. Timer on?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of a fantasy or an emulation of some cars that were out there.
But this is actually a series. It's the Formula Master series. You can go to formulamaster.net to check it out.
Yep.
And series began in 2007, running as part of the FIA Formula One World Championship and FIA World Touring Car Championship race weekends. I love this car, man. I think it's top of our list right now for Simbin cars.
Yeah, I think when we've covered Simbin titles in the past, I've always used this car to drive in. It has that helmet view with the tear-offs that I love.
I have a love-hate relationship with that helmet view. I mean, it's so cool, but it can be so restrictive, like real life. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It just, it's really cool though. I do like that. Force feedback is solid. Lots of paint jobs.
Yeah.
Another 5.
Yeah.
Given a lot of 5s and paints in these last 4 cars that we've done, and they all deserve it.
And that's important. That's being able to get out there in a field with a bunch of people and not all being identical cars, which is no fun.
What else we got?
So,
Physics?
yeah, the physics, it got a 16.3. We both like the car a lot. Maybe not the best we've ever driven, but a very, very good representation of a sim car.
Maybe a little too easy to drive.
Yeah.
I would expect it to be a little tougher. When you start pushing it, though, I mean, you can step the car out and stuff like that. So, I mean,
It reminds me of the Star Mazda or Formula Mazda in iRacing with the way it drives. Under horsepowered, lots of grip.
Yep.
That works out pretty well. All right.
And there's the timer.
Overall score, it got an 84, which puts it at 18th on the list and actually knocks the VHR down to 27th today.
Ouch. But you know what? Right in the middle of our list is, you know, it deserves to be there. The top sim bin car, like we had mentioned, it just beat out some of the other ones, and it's a great car, great little car to race with.
You know, the other thing, I think when we started this was about appreciating certain models. And then in the end, when we really started judging it, it really kind of came down to, at least in physics and other things, but sort of a battle between sims, too. So Simbin, you know, with the way its engine runs, I think 16.3 in physics is really, really phenomenal.
I agree. So that's going to do it. Number 13. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And, man, this list is just getting huge. We're going to get 50 cars here before we know it.
And both of these came out of the forum. Both of these suggestions were in our forum, so
Thanks for all the suggestions out there, guys. Keep them coming. We're looking at your list. Sorry we're not giving credit to the guys. There were so many suggestions of these cars coming from all over the place that we couldn't really pick one. So thanks for all your suggestions. Keep them coming, and hope you guys enjoyed it.
We're back here with something new to the show, RC Racing, and it's actually like a sim within a sim. The way the guys described it to me.
That's right. You know, as a matter of fact, I was trying to think of the first game I ever played that was like this. RC Pro-Am for the Nintendo 8-bit. We found it on the web. Old school, man. That is old school. Anyway, but here we are. Virtual RC. I even actually have a controller, an RC controller here. And you can use it to play this sim of a sim with, virtual RC. You need this little adapter, hook it up USB, and this hooks into the receiver end. This is your transmitter. Got the antenna and everything, so like you can be chilling across the room.
It's pretty cool.
Yep.
So the guys tested this sim of a sim out and put together a little piece, and here it is.
Here we go.
So, you know, we've had a lot of conversations lately about what sim racing is, and the show actually has gone to cover games that I never imagined that we would, because we were thinking such automotive sim racing.
Yep. This is the sim of a sim.
This is a sim of a sim. I have been a long time RC guy. This is my real controller.
I used to do some off-road RCing.
And it's always been a hobby passion of mine, and I compare it very much to sim racing in terms of comparing it to real-life racing.
Yep.
And so this is a sim of the sim of the sim. We're not going to score it, because I don't even know where to begin when it comes to physics and things like this. And to be honest with you, Virtual RC, which is what we're talking about, is a sim of RC racing. And the perspective is from the tower view. And you are looking down at a track, and they have 21 tracks to choose from. There's some actually really cool tracks, a lot of varying difficulty.
Yeah, this is probably, we mentioned on the last show that motocross was probably the toughest sim. This is definitely a step, well, probably about equal, I'd say. I mean, you gotta, if you've never driven an RC car and you don't know how the left and right thing works, because you basically got to,
when the car's going away, it steers normal. When it's coming at you, everything's backward.
Yep, and then your gas and brake is this trigger. You know, pull the trigger, there's your gas, push it back, and there's your brake. So it definitely takes some getting used to. And, you know, we got some footage of us here driving the real RC cars, and I haven't driven one since, I don't know, probably 20 years. We actually used to race them.
Right.
Not really professionally or anything, but just some off-road stuff. But those cars were a lot easier to control than virtual RC is.
Yeah, I think it's that perspective or view. I mean, when you're racing online, and there is a little bit, we'll get to the online racing, but when you're in the tower view, things seem a little further than they do in real life.
Well, and you know what? The same concept holds true with real racing, real sim racing. I mean, you can never we can't get that seat of the pants feeling. Yeah, there's motion simulators, but they still don't give you the G-forces.
Yeah.
So you're never, we're never going to be able to, well, maybe someday in the future, but right now you can't. So it's the same thing. It's easier to drive a real car, in my opinion, because you got, the surroundings. Everything's happening real time. Not that it's not happening real time in a sim, but it's just different. It's just a different experience.
It is, but it is going to train you well for RC. You're going to get that left-right thing. You're going to be able to. The other thing about RC racing for me is you need to know where the corner is before you see it. Whereas in real-life racing, you can always see forward and you can see what's in front of you. And in this game, you might be coming from the right side of the screen and going well beyond what you see on the left side of the screen and need to know where to brake and where to turn in.
Yeah, and we mentioned that this is, a sim, and basically these, there's pro RC racers. We know one, Frosty St. Clair, and we talked to him about this. And he mentioned, it's a great training tool, but it's just, it's harder than it actually is in real life, and he's just running in the 24 Hours of Lemons, his first real life racing experience, and it's just in a stock Mustang, but he was saying, so much easier to drive a real car.
Sure.
Because you got the real feeling happening. You just don't have that in a sim.
It's true. Now, and the thing, getting back to the physics, there are a lot of setup options. You can choose different engines that all have different torque. Change the muffler, it also changes the torque and the power band of the motor. You've got tires that you can select, different fuels, different car bodies. I mean, you've got different classes, 8th scale, 10th scale cars, lots of different variety. So, and that adds to the difficulty. Every time you change the combination, it changes the way the car handles, and again, making it more difficult in a lot of cases.
Well, some of the things I want to say, I think it's a really cool concept and project. He's actually expanding on it, creating a pro version, where you're actually going to be able to race against more than just, well, you can't race against anybody right now, can you?
There's just a dual player mode where I can challenge one person and race against them, and that's it. When you race online in their competitions, it's really time trialing against the AI cars. Everybody starts off on the same playing field, and then you're ranked according to your time.
Yeah, speaking of same playing field, they don't allow you to use anything but this type of controller.
Right.
Or, the real one that you've got.
Yeah, and that's actually a $64 controller right there.
Yep, which is pretty much a real-life controller, just like a real-life controller. Give you a little close-up of it there. But it has, fake buttons. The only thing that really works is the dial and the trigger.
And for the RC fans, one thing you don't have with this is the ability to change the linearity within the controller. There is a linearity setting in the game. Now, I am using my actual RC controller, and I actually use the receiver, because that's a transmitter. I use the receiver from that same RC. I pulled it out of the car, and this there's a $20 and a $35 adapter that you use with different controllers to actually use your own controller. And that might allow you to adjust the steering within the controller.
Yep, got to be the way to. Can't do it with a keyboard. I mean, it's too tough. We tried with a gamepad. Doesn't even allow you to.
Well, we got one knob working, but it was impossible.
Right. So you got to do it with an RC controller. That's definitely the way to do it.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, they lock you into that view, and having to use a controller like that for the time trials.
Yeah. When you're not competing, they do have other views that you can watch from, which are fun. But when it comes to it, if you're doing an RC sim, you want to be from that tower view. That's realistic.
So how much is this sim going for, man?
They've got packages starting at $25. That's going to get you a couple of basic tracks and a couple of tracks to choose from.
There's a demo too, isn't there?
They do have a demo. Then they also have the full-blown version, which is like $179, and that comes with 2 PC versions, so you can run it on multiple PCs, and all the tracks available. And the thing about it is they are switching to this whole pro mode that's coming in the next couple of months, I believe, and that's actually going to change the pricing to a monthly structure, which we're seeing everywhere nowadays.
Yep.
And it's also going to make it so that there is more competition going on. So it's definitely worth checking out. It's hard. Check out the demo. If you're into RC racing, it's a great tool.
Definitely check it out, yeah.
I don't think they're looking at this as a sim racing game. They're looking at this as a virtual RC sim for RC racing. For sim racers, it's going to definitely be different than what you're accustomed to.
Yep.
So, virtualrc.com, that's where you can check it out.
Definitely check it out. Like we said, if you're into RC racing or just interested in checking it out, check out the demo. It's cool. Sound effects are cool, graphics are cool, and it's a fun game.
Off the beaten path, too.
Yep.
Virtual RC. Check it out.
It's about that time for the top story on today's show. We're going to be putting Simbin and the whole race series on our weighted rating scale. We're going to start off with Race 07 as the base, and GTR Evolution, STCC, and Race On as expansions.
Yep, and we're also going to tell you guys about our sim index now. We're going to include that in the scoring. And basically what that is we've taken out 4 of the scores of our weighted rating scale and come up with this sim index. And that's basically how hardcore a simulation is this title.
And the sim index has a possible total of 75 points versus the weighted rating scale with a total of 100 points possible.
Yeah, and just to make sure you guys are clear on it, the 100-point scale still exists. That's for the whole title, kind of a racing game index. And then this is the sim index, which is just pulling those scores out of the whole 100-point scale and coming up with who's got the closest to 75. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to include some of the other titles that we've already scored: iRacing, Dirt 2, Forza 3. All those are going to be Need for Speed Shift. Going to pull the sim index on those scores and see where they stand up.
That's right, because as you know, some of the titles that we do put on our scale don't have some of the features such as AI, right?
Yep.
So this will give it a little more true indication on how great the sim is.
Yep.
And in addition, you could find all of these scores posted at our website now. So if you want to go back and kind of do some comparing for your own personal reasons, go ahead and head to our website and look for that.
Is that in our archives?
That's in our archives and sour cream.
Sour cream and archives.
That's right. And since we are putting all of the race series on the weighted rating scale, if you want to know individually about those titles, Race 07, STCC, any of the games, and you want to kind of get a little brush up information on those.
See with the Cars Tracks, we've already done those earlier shows, so you can check those out. We'd have like an hour special if we talked about every single one in detail.
That's right. You can go to our library and just read
our archives.
Never going to let that one go, are you?
Nope.
All right, guys. Well, here you go. Here is Simbin and the whole race series on our weighted rating scale.
This segment is sponsored by Sim Raceway.
All right, here we are for our... Man, this has been forever since we previewed all these titles, but we've never actually scored them. Actually, I think we scored Race 07 on our old scale.
Right.
But never put all 4 of them on, especially not on the new weighted scale.
That's true.
So here we are putting all the Simbin titles, starting with Race 07, GTR Evolution, STCC the game, and Race On. All of them are going to be put on the weighted scale together as one package.
And how much? I mean, I know we get to cost later, but what was the
$49.95 for the whole package right now. If you get the Race On package, it comes with STCC and Race 07 for like $29.95, and then you get GTR Evolution for $19.95. So, anyway, just under $50. We're just going to get right to it. We're going to go through our scale, talk a little bit about each category, and then talked about our sim index on the last show. We're going to actually talk about the sim index after we're done scoring this, and then tell you where it ranked up compared to iRacing and Dirt 2 for now.
There you go.
So let's start with physics. Overall, we scored it at 12.25.
Not bad.
Yeah, good overall. I'd say some cars were actually in the 14s, but then I actually ran some Race 07 cars, and they were down right around in the 10s.
Well, we are including a lot of different games or copies or sims into one, so that's a huge variety of cars.
It
like
is.
you said, some of them are really, really good. Excuse my enthusiasm there. But some of them
are not so good.
Yeah.
Yes, like some of the original Race 07. But as you start stepping up through GTR Evolution, STCC, and Race On, the physics really kick it up a notch.
Definitely.
So 12.25 there. Next up, graphics. 8.5, starting to show its age a little bit.
There was a time or a period where I always thought Simbin was sort of the top of the line when it came to graphics, but a lot of these are getting dated, and yeah, they just aren't quite holding up to some of the latest Sims and graphics.
Especially like Dirt 2 and Forza 3.
Yeah.
Just not the same kind of depth or sense of speed that you're getting as even like an iRacing. So 8.5 is what we gave it there.
Lots of
graphics.
color. Lots of color in it.
And yeah, they're like a lot of the tracks are really beautifully done, like Nordschleife and stuff. All of them are actually really done.
And
really
Simbin has a lot of that track deformation, moving cones, corner workers, things like that going on. So that's cool.
Yeah, that does add to it. So again, 8.5 there for graphics. This is our combined scores. Mm-hmm. Next up, sounds. Definitely top-notch sounds.
Yeah.
Great rumble across the board.
Yeah.
I'd say only one of the weak points in the sounds were tire scrub. I don't like how the tire scrubbing sounds. Kind of a weird can't even explain it.
It's generic. That's all I can say about it. Yeah, the tire scrub. Sounds, I agree with you. There's a little variety from some of the cars to cars and things like that.
Great off-road sounds. You hear the
yeah.
pebbles and stuff. The dirt coming up through the car. So, so overall, they're nicely done. 8 3/4 is what we gave it there. Next up, tracks. Man, if a good half of these were laser scanned, or at least a couple of them, that would bump this score up probably a full point.
Definitely.
8.5 is all we gave it on the. I mean, it's still a good score, but.
And ultimately, it's a good score. And really, when it comes to $50, you're not going to get more tracks of high quality because they're all nicely done, but they're done from pictures, GPS, the normal traditional methods, pre-laser scanning.
Yeah, exactly. So not as much life in. I'd like to feel more bumps and ripples in the track, but beautifully done. Tons of different variations. Nordschleife, I mean, it's great having that and variations of that, and lots of European tracks, even added some American tracks just with race on, so great selection. 8.5 we gave it in tracks. Vehicles, probably the best selection in a commercial title.
A huge variety of not just cars, but different styles. I mean, open wheeled, you've got the radicals, so you've got the open cockpit, the full body cars, the touring cars, you've got every kind of sports car. Tons. You're not going to get more cars for the money.
Exactly. And the only thing I would ask for is I'd like to see a little bit more on the higher horsepower end, like an LMP.
Right.
And they've covered pretty much every style of road racing. I'd like to see something on the prototype end.
Yeah, and they
to really round out that road racing.
And they do cap out on horsepower, it seems, a little bit too.
Yep. So vehicles, we gave it a 9. All right, next up we have fun factor. Just tell you the score right off. 8 1/4 we gave it. And I mean, because fun factor is pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
I like that, on the single player end, there's championships you can run. And then you can actually, on the multiplayer end, you got leaderboards that you can be shooting for, as far as time trial goes.
Right.
And then you also have the multiplayer. They had the VWTCC championship last year.
And again, for me, fun factor comes into when I select a car and track, just a huge variety. I mean, sometimes when picking a car, I actually get a little confused. What do I want to pick? There are so many to choose from, and that adds to the fun factor.
Yeah, there's some modability with these titles too, so that adds. So I would like to see. I'd like to see this run over at like Sim Raceway or some place where it's like a one-click install type of thing where you can just go there, run, pick a race and join it.
Yeah,
iRacing style. I mean, that's I'd like to see on that end. But otherwise, lots of fun to be had. Especially find some like the Camaro Cup cars.
Yeah.
You can do some bumping and banging in those cars. They're a lot of fun. So again, 8 1/4 there. Next up, force feedback. 8.5 out of 10. Definitely nicely done. Some of the best in the industry on the PC end.
I would say that basically SimBin is giving you kind of the real feel built in without having to go download and install. Real feel gives you about the equivalent kind of force feedback, in my opinion, across the board.
Yep, I agree. Slip angle is, I think, a little too abrupt. I've mentioned that in other titles. And what I'm meaning by that is when the tires start losing grip on the wheel will get to a point where it just kind of drops off.
Right.
And that's where the slip angle is happening. And I think it's a little too abruptly done on some cars, not on others. Some are, I think they're done really nicely. So 8.5 is what we gave it overall. Next up, AI. 4 is what we gave it overall.
Which is good.
Yeah, solid. Definitely can use for testing. I mean, I personally don't run offline championships, but I know a lot of people do and get a lot of enjoyment out of that. So, you can set your level as far as, I put it at 100 and just was running some yesterday. I was running the Sunred car with the guy with my car. I like to say our names are in the game too, which is pretty cool. I'm in the Sunred. I think it's a GT Pro class.
That does not affect our scores, by the way.
No, not at all. But I was having a hard time keeping up with them. I was running. I went through the championship and we went to Monza or Imola, I think was the first track, and it was tough, man. They definitely hold their own out there.
Yeah, I think 4 might be one of the higher scores, or up there in the ballpark. But it's up there in good AI. I don't think anyone's ever done perfectly. So 4 is up in the ballpark of what I expect from the high ends.
And like I mentioned, great for training and for testing frame rate, stuff like that. Just getting dialed in. Can't do that online. Right. Multiplayer, unless you're in a full field of cars, but then it may be too late. Speaking of which, multiplayer, 3 3/4.
Right.
Prediction code is okay. It's not up to, in my opinion, the current ISI, which is the 12.55 patch. I think the multiplayer is more solid in that version.
I agree.
But it's got leaderboards, ghosts that you can download and run against.
Yeah, and I've definitely run my share of decent races using the whole lineup of titles, and it works well. It's just not up there in the best of the best, but good multiplayer.
And there's no real big community. I mean, there's some out there, but just not like there is with some of the other titles.
This is more, I mean, I hate to say it, but this is more thought of as the better offline game, I think. And for me, R Factor sort of, held that domain for the online code.
Yep. So 3 3/4 there. Next up, Damage. Also 3 3/4. No progressive engine or tranny wear.
Right.
But good visual and physical effects.
Sure.
It's going to lead right to presentation. I love their intro movies.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the editor, the music that they use. Really get you pumped up, get you into the game. Every one of their titles has one.
Yeah, it's because of Simbin that I get really mad at the PC guys who have no intro, because I really like that enthusiasm and building me up before I get ready to do some racing.
Yep. Gave it a 4 there, and the UI has been nicely massaged for this title.
Yeah, very easy to navigate your way around.
Yep, and you run different championships like we mentioned, the single race, arcade, time trial, so lots of
Ghost.
Yep. Last but not least, cost, 4.5. I mean, $50. All these tracks, all these cars, some great racing.
Yeah.
If you find a league, great title to race with.
Yeah, this is right up there in the best bang of the buck for the buck that you can get. Just endless amount of fun. I mean, just to get your way through it, you're going to get your money's worth no matter what.
I'd say it's a must-have for any sim racer.
Definitely.
This whole library.
Essential for your library.
Yep. That's going to do it, except for in closing, our final score was 83 3/4.
Very good.
And just
Solid
like I say,
B.
yeah, it's definitely a solid B. It's still a great title, starting to show its age a little bit. Would love to see some laser scan tracks.
Yeah.
Don't know whatever happened with this lizard engine they mentioned.
No, and with the whole move to the Xbox, I wonder where the PC thing's going to end up. But love to see the next real batch from those guys, not just an expansion on this group.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if that lizard was just basically the ISI port over to the Xbox, because I haven't heard anything since then, and they had the Project Toad, which became Race On.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's up with Lizard Engine, but would like to see, again, some laser scan tracks and something with a new engine. That'd be great, moving
And
forward
speaking
with
of
these
new
guys.
engine, maybe some bigger horsepower cars. Like you mentioned earlier, the LMP class would be a great addition.
Yep. And I'd also like to mention this title's moddable. Like we said before, go to nogripracing.com. There's tons of mods you can get there. Virtual R has some you can grab from there.
Yeah.
Kind of all over the place. Race department. Just do a search and check for mods. So that's going to do it. We're going to transition now into our Sim Index. Actually, let's take a quick break.
Okay.
Run a commercial, and then we'll come back and talk about our Sim Index.
Accelerator wheel stands available now for your Microsoft 360 or Logitech wheels. Fanatic 911 compatibility coming soon. Get the big boy for $109.99 or the standard for $99.99 now at xwstands.com. Wheel adapters may be additional. Prices do not include shipping and handling.
All right, well, now we're going to talk about our Sim Index. We mentioned it in the previous show.
We stirred the pot when we mentioned it. We got a lot of comments about the Sim Index.
Yeah, but I think this was definitely due. We're going to keep the other scoring, which is up to 100 points.
Right.
And that's going to be like our racing game or title scoring system.
Yep.
Up to 100 points. Sim Index is going to be same scoring system, but up to 75 points, and we've taken some categories out.
And it's up to you out there to decide if you agree with us in the Sim Index scoring as well. Otherwise, the old scoring is the way we score.
Yep. So here's what the Sim Index is going to include. Physics, graphics, sounds, and tracks with the same scores we talked about before in the other score, 15, 10, 10, 10.
And the same thing goes with vehicles, force feedback, multiplayer, and damage.
Yep. So we basically, with their same scores from the old system, and we took out fun factor, AI, presentation, and cost.
Yeah.
Because bottom line is, I don't care how much my sim costs to a certain extent. I mean, it's got to be reasonable, but you get what you pay for, and, as a hobbyist, I want the best.
This is my #1 hobby, and I would spend whatever it took, because we're talking pretty cheap by hobby comparisons like we established before.
So we're going to go back to Dirt 2, because that was one of our most recent titles, and then iRacing, and then end with the race series, which we just talked about.
Okay.
So first up, Dirt 2. And out of a 75 possible points, I gave it a 65, Sean gave it a 63. So overall, we gave it a 64 on that sim index. So
Right.
again, that's including those 8 categories we talked about. We're not going to go back through every one of those, but we're just going to tell you that's where Dirt 2 ended up on our sim index.
Exactly.
And I think that's very fair. And a lot of the scores, I will say, like graphics and sounds and tracks, really pumped up their score.
Absolutely, and I think it's good that we added Dirt because it's one perspective of this. The other perspective is looking at iRacing.
Yep.
And this is maybe the one that really influenced most creating of the Sim Index.
Yep.
And with the scores on that one, want to go through. I mean, basically, you gave it a 69. I gave it a 68.5 out of 75, which is a phenomenal score and quite a bit higher than Dirt. I mean, but Dirt really hung in there.
Yeah, 68 3/4 was our overall there for iRacing. So out of 75, like I said, it definitely held up well. And then last but not least, the race series. Right there, actually came in a little bit below Dirt 2 at a 63.
Yeah, and again, I think those dated graphics
Yep.
are what really brought Dirt up and held or restricted Sim.
Even Dirt 2 beat them in tracks, and I'll tell you why. They're using a technology, I can't think of the name of it. Sorry for not doing my research here, but we're talking about the game. We're not talking about Dirt 2 here. But they use like a GPS type technology, and there's just a lot of life in those tracks.
Sure.
Even the asphalt ones, where the Simmons are just, there's not a lot of life, except for the animations and stuff going on, but just in the track surface, there's just not a lot of life.
The other thing, not to talk about Dirt nonstop, but again, their graphics, even though it's very gamey, it's a lot more sim than game. So its physics didn't hurt it as bad as it could have.
Lowest on all of this whole scale was 11 1/4 in physics, but it made up for it in the other categories.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it for this portion of the show. Now you know what our Sim Index is all about. We're going to have all these scores. We're going to continue to update our list with titles from the past to add them to the Sim Index.
Sure.
Like Forza 3, Supercar Challenge. And then it'd be cool to do the comparison when Gran Turismo comes out.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah, GT5 versus Forza 3. So that's going to do it. I'm Darren Ganji.
Sean Cole.
All right. Back to me and Jessica to finish off the show.
All right.
We're pretty much done with today's show. Hope you've enjoyed the sim tutorials and sim bit on the weighted rating scale.
Another fun-filled episode, huh?
RC racing.
Check out our archives.
Actually, check out our forum instead.
InsideSimRacing.tv.
That's right. Go ahead and talk to us. You can talk to me under the J Zone, talk to the guys, ask questions, whatever you like. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so yet.
Also, if you're going to comment on our YouTube channel, only friends can post comments now until we approve them.
That's right.
Become a friend of our channel. If you're a friend, you can post as much as you want. If not, we're going to approve your comments. So don't even waste our time with the crap, because it's not going to be posted.
Unless you just like wasting your time because you have nothing else better to do.
Nobody's going to see it but us, so we'll just delete it. So
Thank you guys for watching. The checkered flag is out, and so are we. We're